Speakers right there by your head too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hang that black cloth over the camera because it's not getting my good side.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and call it to order. We got a start time of 6:01. We got a pretty packed agenda tonight, a lot of resolutions to go through. And so I don't mean to be pushy, but we do have a lot of ground to cover.
I'll be sure.
All right, let's go ahead and do a pledge. And I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
would someone like to lead us?
Yes, amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Father, for today. We thank you for taking care of us, and we ask that you lead and guide us, give us wisdom, Father, as we discuss the things we've gone through the agenda today, and we do thank you. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
You dropped it.
All right. Well, first on the agenda tonight is going to be the approval of the minutes for the August 14th general meeting. So we'll need we got a motion, and we have a second. We have a second on it. Is there any discussion from the board concerning the minutes of August 14th? I hear none. Any discussion from the administration folks? I hear none. Any discussion from the audience? None. So we've got a motion and a second. We have no discussion. So all in favor of accepting the minutes of August 14th? Aye. Any opposed? And none opposed, so the motion carries. So we have some recognition tonight, and we'll turn that over to Chief Geisler to go ahead and address.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. We have two employees who've met some milestones, and I would like to recognize them. First and foremost, Mr. Captain Jim McQuilkin. He's been here for 28 plus years, and he's officially made 15 years full time. So we definitely want to go ahead and recognize Captain Jim McQuilkin. We have a nice little certificate and his 15-year pin.
Thank you, sir.
Our other recognition, and she is on the way.
She's right here.
She's right here?
Try to get off the phone.
There's good. We're going to throw her right to the bus real quick. And our next recognition is Miss Patty.
Yes.
Laurencia Patterson. She's been with us for 1 year.
Okay. All right, full time.
And that is, I believe, our employee recognition for this evening.
All right, thank you, Jay. That gets us into the treasurer's report. We've got a little bit different spin to it tonight since we've had the budget, and things have been pretty dynamic, moving things around towards the end of the year. And so I've spoken with Ms. Hutchinson. She's fine with PMI.
Right, and any details or important things or things that we should be aware of, I'm gonna leave that up to you.
Okay.
But I would like to mention the budget. We've got to, I guess, reconcile this year's budget, but then we're working on next year's budget. And I'm gonna meet with the chief Friday to go over what you and he have been.
It's not me.
Not you, okay? Yeah, Michael. So Michael and Michael, so I'll be here Friday morning to work on that. And I'd like to comment about what you told me, just on the record, that we're going to do away with all of these individual, that's the plan anyway, all of these individual bank accounts. Why do we have so many bank accounts?
Well, we have resolutions to clean those up.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't get into all of the resolutions, but yeah, I think that's important.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
is.
We'll get,
Streamline.
we'll address those later on, but, that's the thought, is
Yeah.
to consolidate these things, so it makes them easier to talk about, easy to understand, easy to manage.
Know where the money is and where it's going.
Correct.
It'll be
But we'll address that
great.
later
Thank
on.
you.
So,
That concludes my report.
did you have an opportunity to look at the credit cards, statements, and
I glanced, I had to pay so sign the checks yesterday,
okay.
and I did glance through them, and everything looked like normal stuff. You know, there was a few meals I would have. But, no, nothing stood out.
Oh, well, thank
We
you.
had some large, unusual, like that thing over there, the whiteboard, which is very nice. And it should help a lot with,
Believe it's, money well spent.
I think so. I mean, overall, for all the capabilities it has, the price is like a laptop computer. It's not bad.
Okay, so, now bring it to DMI.
I would say that you have your consolidated financial statement for January through August, and August in specific. And I would say this, the district is doing well, subject to all the changes that were now contemplated for the 2024 budget. So with the adjustment in pay, with the adjustment in personnel, both those factors impact things like workers' comp and retirement. So we have worked, both Chief Geisler, Chief Eli, and I, along with the chairman, have worked through the 2024 budget, recognizing those modifications approved by the board. We have several resolutions that will put in place some cleanup and structure into financial accounting, which will make this much cleaner going forward. The good news is that through not only active receipts and reserves, we're not in any financial hardships for 2024. We will be required to amend this budget because of legislative order where we are either 5% under in receipts, which we are not, or 5% over in expenditures, which we will be by year end because of things like the increased personnel, pay adjustments, things of that nature. The nice thing about the legislative auditor is we get to do that after we close the year if we so choose to, which makes no sense, but that's a legal loophole in the law, I believe. So if there's any specific questions, we are going to be over budget in items like payroll, matters like that, but that is to be expected with the improvements put in place by the board. But other than that, we will finish the year in the black, which is where you want to be for anything. We will withdraw, and we have put aside a rolling sweep with the resolutions tonight to always keep a minimum balance in our operations. And part of the reason of doing that is to always maximize interest gain, because you're basically gaining no money on the operating account from an interest standpoint, but if we sweep it, we should be in that 4 to 5% range. So that really concludes my report.
The only thing I do want to add to it is that just so folks, people hear particular words and one word is, well, we're over budget. That doesn't mean that we're out of money.
Correct.
We had the money, it was in reserve, we just transferred it out of some accounts into our operating account. So it's not like we're running out of money and people can get laid off. We're solid, we're good.
And to that point, our cash at the end of August was $1,794,121. And then in another account, it was $335,294. So collectively, we have about 2.1 million of available cash from all sources.
So,
And
nobody's going home.
correct.
This comment that I guess everybody heard that the Fed dropped interest rates in 0.5%. So that's going to affect our,
Not some of our long-term investments because they're locked in.
well, yeah, for how many months, yeah. So we can expect that to drop. But,
Correct.
yeah, that was the meeting today.
We'll talk about that. I believe if we agree to sign the contract, we're locked in at 3.9.
Yes.
It's 3.9 if I recall. So we're guaranteed that.
Correct.
Yes, for a period of time.
But again, we'll address that later
Sure.
into it. You did add, that was what you wanted to add?
Yep, that was it.
Okay.
So I will conclude the treasurer's report.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Motion to accept.
And we have a second. Is there any discussion from the board as it relates to the treasurer's report? Any further discussions on it? Anything from admin? I hear anything? Anything from the audience? I hear nothing there. So we have a motion, we have a second. So let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of accepting? Aye. And any opposed? I hear none. So the motion to accept the treasurer's report has passed. So this brings us to the chief's report. And I know you've got quite a few things you want to go over, Chief.
Yes, sir, yeah. Just real briefly, our response updates, 1,285 total calls this year to date. In August, we ran 170 calls. In reference to our number of med units, we were at 96% coverage as far as 2 med units for the month of August. And we had 5 calls that were transferred over to mutual aid requests through Acadian. And after reviewing all of those, they were legitimate requests for mutual aid. Some of those, both med units were on calls. We had a multi-vehicle accident that required more than 2 med units. In one instance where one of the med units was out for some maintenance. So we're looking to go on that.
And that's in our target.
Yes.
Again, just to bring that back up, it's 95. So we're looking at 95. So you're meeting your goal plus.
Yes, sir. Yep. Alrighty. I know we briefly talked a little bit about 2024's budget, and we were going to touch on that, but I think most of that subject matter was covered in the treasury report. Yes, sir. Thank you. And so we'll just move on to our discussion on 2025 budget. Mike and I have been working on the 2025 budget, coming up with some ideas for next year, some purchases, some advancements, and some progression that we'd like to see for 2025. We have a first draft compiled, and we've been meeting with some of the commissioners individually just to discuss some of those items and making sure that we meet the needs of this district. As far as the 2025 budget, and everything I think is looking good so far. I think we've got some really good ideas, some advancements, and we'll be able to put some of that money aside as far as strategic planning, and we'll have a goal for 3, 4, 5 years in the future. So we're looking up on that. My next bullet point is hiring update.
So let me, just some things there. Just for the folks on the board, I have had an opportunity to meet with both chiefs. And I got to just say that I'm very impressed with the amount of thought that went into it. It's not like they just pulled something out of air. They got some legitimate thought and planning that went into this. I would encourage anybody on the board that has the opportunity, has some time, to spend with these, and hear the story. It's a good story. I like it. I think it's setting us up in a very good position for next year. We still have to do some planning, but I do it. I think, Murphy, you've actually
I think y'all did a really good job with that. I think that I am looking forward to seeing the 3 and 5 year plan, because I think y'all have actually a capital outlay set aside for that. So it's going to be, it's good. I don't know who's seen it yet, but it's good.
I'll see you Friday.
Friday, yes, and we'll plan on getting with Mr. Cazenay and Mr. Betty so we can meet with y'all as well.
Okay.
And then after you guys have had a chance to look at it and add some comment, then we'll go through the process of actually adopting the budget. So there's a particular process that we're going to follow once we've completed vetting it within the pre-budget.
I'd like to say too, it's progressive, it's moving forward. I think y'all be pleased to see, and I don't want to steal y'all's thunder, but I think you'll be pleased to see what's in it.
Good. And then on the strategic planning, any thoughts about when you want to start that?
I think we can work on that. We're gonna meet with our employees. We have our monthly meeting scheduled for Friday morning. So we're gonna get some input from the employees as far as some of the ideas they have as well. during that meeting, and I think we should progress probably next week. I
Okay,
think as soon as next week, we should be ready to.
started, so certainly before years in.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. All right.
I don't know, Mike, if you had anything to add.
Just a couple of little things, as far as the 2025 that allowed in manpower that we're moving to. When we had the budget review, we were gonna bring that up too, but, we did move forward. The manpower, one of the big things that the board is okay for this year is we moved the manpower that was gonna be in the 2025 budget is now reflected right now. So we moved that manpower, which was over a 70% difference from the 2024 starting budget to now as far as men on duty, right? So we went from 4.5 to 7 1/3 as our average, not including other changes that we'll go over in the budget when we review it with you. And then, yeah, that's gonna make a real big change since that's happened. It's gonna be great in the future. So I'm looking forward to that. As far as the strategic planning, we also spoke to Ms. Wynn. We're in the process of starting to talk and meet about ideas with the bonds, with the ad valorem and whatnot. So that process is starting. We've already started a meeting for next week for that. That way we can then start developing based off of those options that start to get outlaid onto it. So that is in the process.
I think it's important to know too, how we said that the latter end of the 2024 budget was expanded, it went above.
Correct.
And we had to pull from some of that capital reserve fund, whatever you want. But in doing so, we understand because of the increased revenue, that's going back.
Yes, sir.
So it's
You're
just,
gonna replenish,
Right.
have the ability to replenish those funds.
All right. Thank you, guys. Sorry for interrupting you with that part.
Appreciate that. Yeah, hiring update, we have hired 2 full-time, 1 part-time employee in the last month. One of which it's a 10-year veteran in the fire service. So we're proud of that. And we've received several applications. I've received applications as early as today. This afternoon, we received one. Yesterday, we received one. So we're continuing to get applications, interest in employment here. And that's, I think, all due to some of those raises that we worked on, y'all worked on with us in the last couple of months. And so it's definitely making a huge impact. And we're able to, have more people that's interested in working here. Life improvement updates. We've done some things internally to kind of satisfy the work environment. We've been talking about drinking water. Some of the stations are on well water, and it's not the most appealing drinking water. It doesn't smell well, it doesn't taste well. So we've made some changes to provide Kentwood water to each of our stations so that they can have quality drinking water. So we worked on that. Gym equipment, they've requested gym equipment for the last few, probably early part of this year and beyond. And we finally made the move to get some new gym equipment, a treadmill, a bike, and a stair stepper. So those items are coming in. We're just waiting on the treadmill, but we want to make sure we have those items to provide for our employees so that they can adequately.
They use it quite often.
I hope so, and I believe so, yes. Yeah, I believe that stair stepper, I think, is really efficient. It's a quality one too. It just came in today. So I think that's going to be really important for these guys to be able to prep for the job that they do. The next point, bullet point number 6, smoke and gas detector. We need to replenish or replace, update some of our multi-gas detectors on our rescue trucks. We've got a quote. It's under the $10,000 limit that the chief has to be able to purchase that. So it is under that, but I do want to bring that to your attention that we are working on replacing some of those. Emery Johnson, that's his world. He deals with that kind of stuff at his full-time job, and he's been helping us to make the appropriate purchase on those items for the district.
I'd like to make a comment on that too. One of the reasons why that is a really important thing is I had a call, it was about a year ago, it left me real uncomfortable at night. I had a young lady and family, I can't remember where it was, but went to her house. She wanted us to clear it to make sure there's no hazard. She was concerned. She had a smell. Well, I went in the house, and when our detector at the time, our multi-ray, was giving us some problems. And it was the only one we had that we could detect with. So, yes, it detected that there was nothing in the house, but I personally didn't feel confident sitting there having to tell that lady with all the kids that it was safe in the house, because I didn't have a secondary unit to double check to confirm with that first unit in that particular scenario. So this is gonna take that liability away, let the guys sleep at night if they gotta make those type of decisions, because that would have been a really bad case.
While we on, equipment like that, is any grants or anything that would be available for any of that stuff?
So we are, speaking of grants, we're working with Ben Martino, Pelican, I don't know the name of the company, but he's a grant writer. He's meeting with us on Friday afternoon. We're going to discuss the what's the name of it? AFG grant, I believe. And we're also going to discuss reimbursements for some of the things we had to purchase for the hurricane. So we're going to be discussing grants with Ben Martino on Friday. So hopefully, we can hold off on that purchase, and we have some other items too that are big ticket items that we're going to discuss with him. So we could possibly throw that in the mix as far as grant. Just to give you an idea, for 2 detectors and some of the equipment needed to calibrate them, we're looking at about $7,800.
Does that come with a service contract?
You put me on the spot, but I don't think so.
Okay. Because I know they usually come swap bottles, they usually test, change the filters in them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Calibrate them.
Yeah. Again, Emery is our guru, but we'll ask the company. But Emery has done that for us previously with the one we have in place. So if we can look at that and make sure that's something that's included. Yeah. That concludes my chief's report. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Oh, when I have training, you have everyone getting their training in. Is there anything that needs to occur?
We're working with Slidell. We're trying to catch up on some of our multi-company and tower drills. But as far as anything else, we're on par. But we do need to work on some of our multi-company. It involves us going out of the district, so it does have a little bit of planning as far as scheduling. But we do plan to catch up on those things in the next couple of months.
Any plans, anybody going to lift?
We're going to be looking at that for next year's budget. So that's definitely in the plan for next year's budget lift.
I think also if you contact them, you may be able to negotiate something. If you're going to send a larger group, you may get a really.
Yeah, lift is definitely on our radar. FDIC is on our radar. So we do have some big plans for training. I've spoken with the chairman before. We do have a lot of catch up in the training department. That's important to me, and I know.
We'll have a little discussion around that tonight too.
Yep.
I think.
Yes.
And St. Tammany Fire District 1 has been really helpful, and the tower multi-drills, it's basically anything you need, so.
That's great. All right. Anything else for the chiefs? Okay, all right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next group, and that's gonna be some old business. So the first on the agenda is medical billing and collections, just status of the transition to Coronas from Insight. Ms. Teresa, if you can give
It's
us.
going really well. We've received most of the information from Insight that they had, and that's been transferred over to Coronas. They did not have a supply list they were charging from because they did not charge supplies. So Chief Geisler and I went through our supply list, what we paid for it, what we used, all that, sent that to them. We've been working on getting them access to all the insurance websites, so that's in process. I think they're almost done with that. They've already done Medicare, Medicaid. They have access to ImageTrend where they can get into the portal to where the guys put all the sheets and everything, and they can pull that daily.
Do you feel good with our decision to go
I
with
do.
these booths?
I do.
You do?
They're going to be billing daily where Insight billed weekly. So they're going to go in ImageTrend every day. They're going to have training for the guys October 14th and 15th. We have a start date, hopefully October 1st with them. But they're already planning on coming and training the guys 14th.
They're gonna come here.
They are.
Perfect.
I don't think there's anything else. The termination letter, they are aware because there was one of the insurance companies sent a verification email to Insight instead of to me.
Okay.
So I got a phone call
Didn't know what to do.
wondering what was going on. So they are aware of the letter.
That's fine. So, so yeah, I think, one of the things I'm really excited about the medical billing, and we've had these discussions about revenue generation. We have no idea how much money that we'll be able to get as a revenue source from that ambulance. It's just been, what I'm gathering, such poorly managed. You know, everyone is certainly aware of um, the stuff that we did not collect. You know, and that information has been sent to Coronas, right? To where they're going to go ahead and start looking into all this money that had been forgiven over the years to let us know what to do with it. But it was quite interesting to find out that we were not billing for medical supplies. And we sat here, we just lowballed it, and that on the lowball, it's at the very minimum, we were leaving over $300,000 a year on the table because we just wasn't going after medical supplies. So, you know, it's really going to be exciting this time next year just to see what that ambulance really can do. You know, I've always had this skepticism about, was it profitable? And I never did see it in the profit, and the reason for it was it wasn't there. We couldn't get it. So I'm really good to,
Mr. Chairman, may I add a comment? You made the comment that we technically was Insight going after that.
well, you're right.
An insight.
You're right, Mark, but we, you know,
But the
we
Insight never
own
came to
it.
you. Yeah, but
We
Insight,
own it.
but they never came to you and said.
They didn't, but we own it.
Correct.
We own it. There's no blaming it on anyone. It's us. But we recognized it and we changed it, and we're going to get it. Okay? What I would like to do is, if you would, draft a letter to Insight, giving them official notification that we're not going to be using their services. I don't remember. I think it was something like 90 days. But that doesn't mean we have to continue with them. We can continue, we can slip bills on to our new provider, Coronas, and in 90 days, we'll have a complete separation from Insight. Prior to sending it to them, let's make sure that Chad has a chance to take a look at it, if you don't mind. Thank you. Any other discussions around the medical billing? Nope. And there's no actions that's needed by decisions by the board in that matter. The next up is cost recovery, recovering money owed from former employees. As the board may recall, we had some employees that went through some training. They exited the department early, and there was some money owed back to the department. And there was at one point, looked like we were going to take them to a small claims court. We made the decision that's probably not the best, to try to go through some sort of collection agency. That's not look like we're having much traction with that, because the collection agency has an affiliation with Insight, and it's really becoming a complicated thing. And from talking with Chad and folks, if we continue to try to pursue this money, it's simply gonna cost more in our time, in our, of course, paying out to people's services for the money. I think we're talking less than $3,000. And this has been for how long ago?
It's been probably 2 years.
And so this has been festered around for 2 years.
Question, with that, legally, aren't we bound to go after it to a point?
Well, and that's right. So the law says, the Constitution, the Louisiana Constitution and the Louisiana revised statutes both say that we have to make a reasonable attempt to collect the money.
That's definitely good.
Well, but in conversation with the counsel for the auditor, they also say that when it gets to the point when your efforts is not going to net anything back, it really, it's a waste of everybody's time.
So my point is, we have made the effort, and it's not, advantageous to.
You're at the point of diminishing
Yeah,
returns.
and this,
Finishing
yeah, this is
returns.
2 years. This is 2 years.
Yeah, we're not gonna get.
So, you know, I would like to see if the board would entertain, making a motion just to, list this as unrecoverable debt. And, I think what we should do with it is put it as a, accounts receivable and then erase it from the account as uncollectible.
And that was one former employee that we're
There
talking
was
about now?
three. There
Oh,
was
I knew there was more than one, we're only talking about one or all?
all three.
All
The total of that is less than $3,000. So it's just really not worth dragging these people, and being, you know, trying to get money that they don't have, quite honest with you. They just don't have it to give.
And tick them off even more.
Well, I don't know about ticking them off, but good Lord, I mean, we don't want to put them in debt forever, they don't have it.
You don't want to spend $5,000 in collecting.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So I'd like to see if the board would entertain a motion to list these funds of those particular 3 employees as unrecoverable debt.
I'll make a motion that those 3 individual, past employees that be written off as unrecoverable.
Okay, and can we get a second?
Yes.
We have a second on that. So is there any further discussion on the matter by the board? What I would, Ms. Teresa, if you would, just so that we're doing it correctly, I'd like to see if you could get the names of those individuals so that it could be very clear as to who they are, that we're not, you know, there's 3 people, and we want to make sure that we identify those 3, not in a public forum, but it's in somewhere in the record that those are the 3 that were forgiven.
And the amounts per each.
Yes.
And nobody else.
Yeah, I don't need it in a public record, that's private business. So we've got a motion, we've got a second, we've had some discussion by the board on it. Any discussion from the administration? Any,
Draft a record-keeping resolution for next month, and be resolution 2024-032.
thank you. Any discussion from the public, in the audience?
I would like to make one comment. This is not a problem that I'm going to foresee that you're going to have with the moves that have been made by the board going forward. This is an old problems that we've been past.
Fair enough. So we've got a motion, got a second, we have some discussion, so we'll take a vote. All in favor of listing this as uncollectible debt and then and clear it off the books? Say aye. Any opposed?
Are we referencing that as 32, number 32?
Yes.
This one is going to be will be
Yes,
resolution.
ma'am, it'll be a housekeeping resolution that we'll sign off at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passed. Top-down review and audit.
I have released 3 proposed dates for Andrea Taylor to come on site.
September 27th, October 4th, and the October 11th.
Correct. So we just need to work with the administration to select the best date based on, what's scheduled on the calendar. And then we'll start setting up employee interviews.
And so how many days do you foresee the interviews taking?
Probably two separate visits.
Okay, so we need to make sure that we have the accommodations for the 3 shifts.
Correct. I'd like to work with the administration and.
Okay, so you guys are gonna work that out.
Correct.
Okay,
Clarify this a little bit for me. What are we doing?
This is the top-down.
Review
The
that we
audit.
were gonna do.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we actually initiated it and we intentionally delayed it
Mhm.
Until the district is at this current point, and then we're going to reinitiate it again.
Okay, HR being raised.
all right, so there's no action required by the board on this, it's just simply a discussion point. Simply let everybody know, so Chief, what I would like for you to do is, once you've identified the dates, make sure that you get a communication out to all of your employees and then CC the board to let them know the expectations about, and what's going to occur and when those dates are. And you may want to work with PMI to help, kind of get you some information to help share on what's going to occur and how things will be. All right? Okay. That gets us into new business. So first thing on the new business is chief selection. And basically, I'd like to have some discussion around the board of hiring the date that we want to do to hire the new chief. And, I realized coming up in one of the resolutions that we're going to go ahead and make it chief provisional. And I understand through education from the office manager that it's time driven. So once we sign the resolution, it's 90 days, correct? 90 days, and then we have to make a decision. However, we do have the ability to make one additional rotation. So that would make it about 180 days before we have to have a person officially in seat. That with that, it's really a difficult time of the year. Trying to bring somebody on right at the end of the year has been my experience. It's never been really the best way to go about it. We're going to be learning some things through the audit. So we'll learn some things out of that. And so, I would like to propose that we don't go into the hiring process until after the first of the year, but that's Danny's opinion. And so, I certainly wanted to hear the opinion of the board to see what the board's pleasure may be as it relates to that.
With me?
So
Yes.
you're okay with waiting on that?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's a wise decision because we get to evaluate the possibility of you taking the spot permanently. And so this is kind of a working test period, not to put you on the spot, but it's a legitimate thing to do. And, I wouldn't suggest waiting 180, the whole thing, but, I think,
No, I just,
because not that you're a ship adrift, but, I think at some point we need to nail it down and that,
I agree.
possibly in January at some point, so
Yes.
I think that's enough time to see,
All right.
I think what you're looking for.
Well, you're right, Murphy. If you go back with the theory of, it's a bad time, well, that time has passed and settled, things have settled. People have retired or are doing, contemplating, all that stuff's done. And it does give us an opportunity to watch these folks drive the ship for a while. But it also, it does, it's very important that we learn through the audit, what's on people's minds, and we'll probably glean, I'm very certain that we'll glean something out of that information that may be useful in determining the type of person, maybe not the who, but the type of person that we want here driving the ship on a regular permanent basis.
I have a question. The assistant chiefs, that's already an established position, so that it has to be a test that's taken and the senior person that passes that test gets that? Correct. So the board's not appointing an assistant chief, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, you're selecting the competitive position, which would be fire chief. And to add to that, as long as the board is making progress, that 90-day rotation is not locked in stone. We have a selection process through PMI, has been used 3 times in St. Tammany Parish and about 15 times statewide. We don't vote on who it is, but it's a process that.
Would you mind sharing that with me? Is it a written document?
Yes, sir.
Would you mind sharing
It's a
that? with me?
timeline, it's, interview questions, things of that nature. So it is proven to work. Again, we don't vote on it, but it's a template for you to use and we modify for each district. But I would say this, as long as you can prove to the state examiner's office that you are making good faith actions to move forward, those 90-day rotations are really not carved in stone.
All right. Well, to Murphy's point,
I think the only thing that would drive that is if, you drop the ball, And then we got to start searching. And then that searching, well, nobody's beating the door down. And so that's dragging the process out. But
And I would say this, the board also has the option to reject all applicants. And that has actually happened in this parish at one time, and they started the process.
If there's no harm for you to share that process, I would like to at least see what it is that we're getting into.
Yes, it's a total package from basically, the initial applications all the way through helping the board with the selection process.
Okay, so the board's okay with
Yes.
with this then?
With 90 days, that puts it basically at the end of the year.
Correct, that's what.
And that's a good
so
settling down period.
my question to you is, let's say we move this process in January and we're really close. At what point do we call for a test for assistant chief so that way that doesn't take forever either?
I would say call for a test for district chief when you start the application process for fire chief.
Okay. I mean, I would imagine that way it's not delayed, you know what I mean? So that way it happens quickly and everything is set in place.
Perfect.
And how, that's open to anyone of a certain level,
It's the most senior qualified person.
what about other departments or?
Within the department.
I never worked for a fire department.
That's okay.
I
I never worked either, every day.
So we're good then with that. All right, perfect. All right, so no action's gonna be needed on that. It's just basically some thoughts and for people are, okay, we got some things that have to occur before we get ready. All right, so next topic up is, training officer. I had a discussion with the chief and, basically what he's wanting to do is have a discussion with the board to start the process of establishing, we actually had it listed as a training officer, but as early as this morning, I think we added that it needed to change. Instead of training officer, he said that complicated things. You had to make division changes, so you were looking at simply changing the title, but the person would still be doing some training things, correct?
Yeah, correct. So,
Okay, so it's all yours.
yeah, Gillian might be able to chime in too. He's playing kind of dual roles at the point because he's our civil service rep as well. So he's asked a lot of questions to civil service. But opening it up to a training officer really makes you have to form a separate division as far as training, and that would be a competitive position versus promotional. And so we were looking at other options as far as a district or a battalion or deputy chief, which would fall more in line for a promotional position. That would put that individual under the assistant chief rather than in a completely separate division. But that person would still take a lot of the roles as a training officer, as well as some of the other ideas that we have, emergency response, safety officer and such. So we don't know exactly what it would be called. We have to initiate the process through civil service. From what I understand, they submit a survey that we work on and complete, which compiles a list of some of the job descriptions, and then they would make a recommendation to us to how that position would be labeled and the actual job description.
And then you have to get something from the board indicating that we financially solve it to be able to take that position on.
There's two things that they want as far as opening a new position, and they want proof that we can afford it, and they want proof that the board supports it.
Have you gotten that proof?
We have worked on, well, tonight we may get one of the proofs, and then we're confident that we can afford that in the upcoming budget. In fact,
No, go ahead, the proof.
we're okay with, as far as the remainder of this year, but we're confident as far as next year that we can afford that position.
So if we did a battalion chief, they said it's competitive?
Those would be promotion. Those would be in line.
Okay, so, but generally when you're creating a new position, you can appoint the first person to that position.
Correct.
And then that way, you get the most qualified person that you feel has been doing, as opposed to getting the next guy that's been sitting on the couch and, excuse me, but anyway. But the point is that if you establish that, or even with the training division, establish that, generally you get locked into those positions unless you don't ratify that position. How much time do we have that you have to lock in?
Well,
A couple of years, isn't it?
yes, sir, just to initiate the process, you're talking a 6 to 9 month process just to get it formed. So technically, I call it a two-step process. The first decision would be by the board to both, yes, establish the classification and fund that classification. The design would be that would be funded as a permanent position in a go-forward basis for the district. Not by budget, but on a permanent go-forward basis. Once that's done, and then you get the questionnaire, it really has its life to itself after that. But that doesn't mean you can't put someone provisionally there, January 1st if you chose to do that. But they would have to understand that they would be provisionally appointed until the classification was adopted 6 to 9 months in, and then have a working test period on top of that. So whoever that person may be is going to have a longer burn-in time than a normal person
Yeah, I know
would.
it's close to 2 years.
Yes, sir.
So if we did that, I agree, but to create another division, we're not that big yet. So the battalion chief, and the chief would still be in a position to appoint that person. And so therefore you'd really go off of, really merit, not so much time on the job, so it might upset some people, I know, but, just be aware that you can do that. As a chief, you can appoint that first initial position, a person into that position if it's a new created position. So I don't even think you have to give a test for that, do you?
Typically, you do a standards and qualifications, which is a resume review.
Okay.
That they would review, and then.
I know it's been done in the past, so
Yeah.
that's what I was.
And although it's not a legal term recognized in the law, but you technically, if you have someone there for 6 months or longer, they're both grandfathered in, even though grandfathering is not a legal word recognized, but that's the default, is they would be grandfathered in.
So, Michael, what are you asking of the board tonight?
We would like to move forward on that process, start that process through civil service. And so we can move forward in opening that position.
So, she sent me a document, like the guideline,
Civil service.
yeah, civil service. Her name's Angela Floyd. She sent me a document, a long conversation with her about it. It's kind of complicated. She sent me a guideline, and the first step of the guideline, which I read one before, and I was Vanessa's alluding to it. First step is they recommend letting the governing authority approve the funding for the new position. So we have to prove that we have the funding, and y'all have to say, yes, you're allowed to create that position, basically. At that point, if we want it, we can temporarily fill it. We ain't worried about that right now, but that allows us to move to the next step, which is then send them verification that you have said, yes, it's okay to create the position. They'll send a letter or whatever's required, and then they will start sending us a questionnaire. They will fill out the questionnaire, and then we'll start developing the position.
So have you all looked at a pay scale yet for that?
We have an idea, that was part of the thing, yeah. For that.
So if we have a pay scale, where would that person, never mind, that would have to depend on the amount of years that they have here, where they would fall into that pay scale, but
I think the best solution would be to go ahead and create that position and forecast that in the 2025 budget. And if you approve the 2025 budget, you by default have approved funding for it in the establishment of the classification.
but understand, where we're gonna fall at in there, so where we kind of got an idea, what's that gonna cost to create that rank, and can we sustain that?
Yes, sir.
It's a default right now, the BC position. Okay, so we know exactly what that's going to cost as of right now. It's in the budget, and yeah, I can get further detail.
Okay. I mean, I agree with Mark, we need to move forward, because we've been behind the 8 ball a lot, so we need to really get ahead of it, and this is part of getting ahead of it, so.
So, since we do have the public, I don't know how many people out there, if there's anybody watching, but so if we could take a minute just to explain to them some of the things that this person would do might be very beneficial to them, and how it all puzzles together. So the fire departments are graded. They're graded by the Property Insurance Association of Louisiana. And various things go into that grade. Several things that go into the grade is training. What is one? And those are the easiest things to get, they're points. And if you accumulate enough points in all the particular areas, it directly, positively affects the public. It's not that we're just becoming more trained, which is great, they're getting a better service. But if we meet all the criteria, we're, by getting the training, by getting pre-plans, by getting all the little pieces that this individual would be doing, we have a better opportunity to lower the costs of the people's insurance. Is that correct? Am I being
Absolutely, yes.
all anywhere? All right, so yes, there's all this internal benefits that the fire department gets. So, we certainly want our people to be, trained to the highest. And we're wanting to get all the resources they can get to be the very best that they can be. But it also, by doing these things, we're actually making steps to make the people in the community lives better because they've got a good coverage, but may not have to pay so much for their insurance.
Right.
So it's a thing that's like, that's easy fruit to be picking up as long as you got people to manage the fruit truck. All right? So what have we got, where are we at? So now we just need a motion to,
Well, what I would say is, with the board's consent, we will model that into the proposed 2025 budget and then identify that as part of the 2025 budget when it's approved. And then by default, I would, with the approval of the budget, prepare a resolution for that meeting that says you plan to establish the classification. And by that time, we should have the actual title of the classification properly nailed down, so we're identifying it.
all right, so you're saying doing it in conjunction with the adoption of the budget.
I would recommend that so that it's a tight package.
Okay.
I would just have the board consent that, yes, you want to move forward in the development of that position.
Well, I think we could say that. I can say that now.
I mean, I'll make that motion. I've seen the budget, I've sat with them, so I mean, and I think it's a necessity to move forward from this point, so I would make that motion to adopt that position into the 25 budget.
So we'll make the motion tonight, but then we'll end up with a resolution.
Well, right now,
With
I just made the motion.
yeah.
Yeah, you make the
Yeah.
motion.
Well, I would say it would be to create a position that would encompass training and the other factors, but it would not be the position of a training officer.
Right.
So I would just say, once we identify the true classification with the state examiner's office, that we would modify the resolution to reflect the correct classification. Right.
So we've got a motion, we have a second.
Yeah.
So we do have a second on it, so, any discussion, further discussion by the board?
I have one more question. Is civil service, I'm sorry, is civil service going to allow you to amend that position from battalion chief to battalion chief / training officer?
We're gonna have a whole process where when we go with the questionnaire, it's gonna be back and forth and no telling how long that's gonna be. It's probably
So
gonna
they
be.
do allow some movement on that?
Well, you get to determine the work requirements. So if you put into the work requirements that training will be a primary function, then that would be established.
Primary function of captains, it's the primary, yeah, so yeah.
So
On that level, yeah, but
it may not be a slash rank, it may just be that district or deputy chief also includes primary duties of training and these other primary duties.
Got what you mean, I got, there's something. If we do this into the budget, so if we adopt it into the budget, that position, we wouldn't fill it until
2025.
Does that meet your needs? Waiting until next year.
I mean, definitely we want it for the next year. I would like to see it sooner, to be able to meet some of the needs that we have coming because we need to prep for
We've
PIL.
got property insurance sitting in our evaluation, sitting on our laps, starting in January.
I don't know when we get the actual questionnaire.
But it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming early next year.
Who's still in that position now?
There's
No
no
one.
one.
There is no.
Question?
Good.
Is it possible that you start identifying a person, unofficially turning the responsibility over to them, ask them to get a feel for it, kind of like in training for the beginning of the year?
So,
And call them a coordinator. Is
Well-
that a generic enough?
Well, it creates a trickle-down effect, or trickle-up effect, I should say, so.
How so?
Is there any way that we can go ahead and initiate it this year?
Well, from a budget standpoint, yes, but to Commissioner Murphy's point, if you hire from the existing personnel, then you're gonna have to also hire replacement personnel as a firefighter operator to fill that void. So you're technically hiring two positions, not just one. And I would make sure
I think the discussion was that it would probably come from a captain's rank, and that they're covered, they would have it covered, so they wouldn't necessarily be a secondary hire off of it.
Well, if you promote a captain to a battalion chief, that creates a vacancy in the captain's position.
So it does, but I understand what you had told me that would not be necessary because you had adequate captains.
yeah, we have added captains right now. The gentleman that we're looking at right now that's probably gonna qualify for it is, he's already been kind of helping a little bit going forward. So, I would think maybe, this is my perspective on it, maybe this is something we speak about on the 9th of next month, and kind of further get it incorporated and see how much
I just want to make sure that we're not leaving you guys short to fill that need, because I appreciate you've got the property insurance evaluation that's going to start early next year. It's just, if we got the guy in the seat earlier, at least he's doing things to make sure we got the points that we need, not putting him in position while that's taking place. It really does that individual a disservice.
Yeah, he's certainly gonna have a lot of work during the process, but we've already met with some of the captains, all the captains, we've discussed PIAL. We are making sure we're gonna meet those needs as far as training.
Okay.
So I know that we're on top of it. Obviously, it'd be a benefit to us to have somebody who can take a lead in that position, but we're already making efforts to make sure that's not an issue going into 2025.
So I'm understanding that you're okay if it does, that position is not filled until next year.
I think we're okay. I would like it to
You
be
would
done,
prefer
but
it.
I think we're okay.
And so, just for clarification, if we promote a captain to a battalion chief, we don't necessarily need to promote a captain from firefighter to captain?
we won't have, qualified person to captain. We'll have a captain per shift.
Okay.
And that's where it'll be until we start getting more of our full-timers qualified. We got a couple getting
Like I
close.
said, I don't want to create a void or a hardship at the bottom end, because obviously if we promote a firefighter to captain, and that leaves a vacancy to hire another firefighter, so it's kind of that, is that in the budget? Can we afford that? Because now that's three, not new employees, but two new positions and one new employee.
Respectively, correct.
Okay.
We'll work with the administration on budget modeling for that and also on classification and bring that back. But I agree with Chief Gilliard. I think that tonight was an opening conversation, not a finishing conversation.
No, I agree. I mean, I think we all want to see it happen. It's just a matter of when.
Correct. And there's a lot of moving parts.
All right, so we have a motion. I mean, how that sucker was worded.
It was tricky because he corrected me. Thank you though, because I didn't add it.
I mean, I think your motion was basically for the board would approve both the creation and the funding of a position.
Okay, and we had a second to that.
Yeah.
Any discussion from the audience on that matter? And I hear none. So we have a motion, we have a second, we've had some discussion on the matter, it's time to vote. So all in favor of giving me a big raise? All in favor of the position and the funding? And I had everybody agree? Before we get the motion out. All right, is anybody opposed? I hear none, so the motion is passed. Did you capture all of them?
I will,
All right.
and I will, for record keeping, that would be 2024-033.
Okay. All right, moving on. So now we get into this big bank of resolutions. So the first resolution, 2024-21, really is a housekeeping. Last meeting, we had the discussion around Coronas. We approved that. So simply all we need to do now is adopt resolution 2024.
It just needs to be signed into the record.
We don't have to even adopt it.
No, sir, we just,
Signed in the record.
so 21 in resolution 2024-22
Okay.
only require a signature by the board because it's already approved at the August meeting.
And they don't, and so that would also stand true of resolution 2024-022,
Correct.
approving the termination of Insight billing.
That is correct.
So yes. Okay, those are easy. Next resolution, this is going to be 024023. Resolution to approve provisional appointments of the fire chief, Geisler, and assistant chief, Gilliard. These guys have already got the roles, they're doing it. This is simply a formality, given the official authority to do their job, what it amounts to.
Yeah. As I like to reference their housekeeping.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve that?
Have a motion to approve the provisional appointments, fire chief and assistant chief.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, any discussion on the board? Any discussion from the administration? Anything from the audience? I hear none, so we have a motion, we have a second, we went through our discussion, all in favor of adopting resolution 2024-023, the approval of provisional appointments, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. I hear none, so the motion carries, so that resolution has been adopted. Okay, so then we've got a discussion here on increased monthly spending limits on the department Visa card. I've had some discussions with Chief Geisler, and he's requested to be able to increase the monthly spending limit on the department Visa card from $10,000 to $20,000. This does not increase his one-time spending authority, which is still at $10,000. But given, things as emergencies, we just went through the hurricane drill, I would like to call it. Any number of things could have occurred, which would have required the chief to
Exceeding what's
to exceed it. And so we approached the bank, and the bank said we simply had to get it into the minutes approving the increase in expenditure.
Okay.
So I'd like to see if we have a motion to increase the monthly spending limit from $10,000 to $20,000. Now, I've got it here for the chief and the assistant chief.
Either or both,
Or both,
combined,
or
or
it's
independent.
for the chief and the assistant.
Together, they can spend up to
Not
20,000.
together, independently, so he can spend 20 and he can
Okay.
spend 20.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that if he's gone, if the chief is out of the district, he has to function in that capacity. And so he should have that same authority in spending, in my opinion. It's Danny's opinion.
Okay, but that's a total of 40.
Well, it would still, yes, it would be a total of
He can do
40,000.
20, he can do 20, a total of 40 any given month.
However, the one single purchase is still limited at 10,000. So they can't go buy a $12,000 piece of equipment without approaching the board first.
Got it.
And of course, their checks and balances, that stuff is looked at. It's not like they're gonna grab the card and go on a flying vacation.
Oh, no, but
Yeah, so.
I'm not worried about that. I just want to,
If they're going to Wendy's.
Yeah,
the small print on this, not that I have any problem with it having it.
and more than likely, that would be a phone call too. Hey, we need this, we gotta do this. Look, this is just giving you a heads up. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's just carte blanche, you know.
It's not, guys, just to give you some real experience, we had the extrication equipment issue that came up several months ago. And that equipment was
A bunch.
a bunch, right? And had that been a set of tools that were lost out on the interstate for some particular reason, he's gotta get them. I mean, we can't wait and have a special meeting up at port, he's gotta go get them.
Question along with these lines. So how many credit cards do we have? One for you, one for you, one for you? That's right, you don't have
Two.
just the two credit cards.
Yeah, currently we have one.
Yeah, so we gotta talk about, right now, there's only one active.
And we're talking one account, one Visa account, and each one has a card or only one active card?
Right now, there's one active.
One active card, either one can use.
But we're gonna look at changing that in just a minute.
Okay. Also, we have open accounts like Amazon. I mean, that Amazon bill can be really thick.
Sure.
And that's like a credit card. You're buying stuff from Amazon on an Amazon account. There's no card with
There's
it.
a card. You pay for a credit card.
Okay. And who has that?
Michael.
Michael. You have a card for Amazon,
No, it's on his Visa card.
the same or a different?
That's the only one.
Amazon's net 30.
It is,
Yeah.
but your card is.
Right, so it does go through. but-
Yeah, I don't think we're increasing the monthly budget by $40,000 a month, but I think it's an emergency thing. And the things that we generally have emergencies and things that we need aren't on Amazon, so we have to go.
No, I
other places
understand
to get them.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for-
But it's an Amazon Visa card?
No.
Or, no, it's an open account
You
with,
sign the check, so it's a net 30,
yeah,
but there is a card attached to it.
okay,
And that's a Visa card issued through Whitney.
Correct.
okay. And then there's a separate, it's only one Visa card. And it is an Amazon card.
It's not Amazon. It's a Whitney Bank card.
Whitney Bank, how does Amazon even come into it? We're using the Whitney Bank card to order from Amazon?
No.
No?
We write the check.
Yeah.
You sign the monthly check.
So with like a cash,
It's a
okay.
net 30.
yeah, okay.
It is a lot of practice.
So you don't use a
Back
card?
by the Visa.
We don't, but you have to have.
Right.
Yeah, it's backed by the Visa.
There's
but we-
one on there, but it's not used right.
Okay. That's the only card, because I know credit card is, look how many people have gone to jail right here in St. Tammany Parish for credit card fraud.
Well, good point, but I don't think anybody here is going to jail.
We have one credit card account and one card.
Now we have one.
Right now,
Right now, 2 seconds.
yeah, now you're gonna have a second card.
Then we're gonna have, now we're gonna have two cards.
Next, number seven, again, we have responsible people that work for us, and there is checks and balances, so it's not like nobody's reading this stuff and.
No,
you
I
know,
see
so-
it every month.
Like I said, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, it just gives you some freedom where if something does come down the pike that you need, and you need to act immediately, you can.
I totally understand it, Murph. I mean, that's not my question. I
No,
was getting at, how many cards are out there?
that's why I said Hawaiian vacation, but
Yeah, he hasn't sent me up.
Long as he takes me with him. Okay, so motion to approve, the monthly credit card spending limit from 10,000 to 20,000 for both the chief and the assistant chief. Do we have a motion for that?
Yes.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We do have a second. Any further discussion by the board? Any discussion by the administration?
In record keeping 034.
Okay, perfect. Anything from the public? Nothing from the public, so let's vote. All in favor of increasing the limit from 10,000 to 20,000, say aye. Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion passes. All right, item 7, here we go, Mr. Andy.
Here we go.
Actually, you approved that without, because your motion was to do.
Yeah,
both
motions,
parts.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you already approved number
Yeah.
7.
Well, if that's the case, like we did then.
Okay.
And you'll put that vote in the same resolution?
So just to be clear, for the record, for the minutes, by the way, item 6 was worded by de facto, I guess, we accepted 7 too, right?
Yeah, you can charge it, but no, doesn't go far.
He will get called. You will get called. Mike will get called. It's and the reason for that is so that everybody's clear. We had 2 cards. We always had a card. The chief had a card, always, and the assistant chief always had a card. Through through Pat Seacard's leaving the department, we never got his card back. So we canceled that card. And so now we're a card short. So Pat's card would have went to Geisler. Geisler's card would have went to Gilead. So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
We're just putting everything back the way it was.
That's a missing piece, that's the
Yes.
piece I didn't have.
Okay, great. 8, resolution 2024-024. Workers' comp insurance, basically approve it. We're not adding anything new here.
Right.
Simply, we're going to continue the workers' comp. Are there any rate increases that we need to?
Actually, you had a rate decrease prior to the budget or the board's action to increase personnel and wages. So as compared to the expiring policy, the new policy, which did not reflect those increases, was, it'd been about $20,000 discount or reduction. However, we are modeling the new policy to incorporate the adjustments by the board for wages as well as for personnel. So we're clean.
So nothing else is coming, no more expense. We know that it's actually going down.
Well, actually, we modeled the correct expense in the 2025 budget.
Okay, good.
What about our rating on workers' comp? Has that gone up, gone down? I mean, if we have more people?
Experience rating has actually increased, only because you've had some very extensive medical claims in the past,
Yeah.
and it follows a 4-year rolling average.
Okay. But now we should be steady for the next, well, rolling average. Yeah, it's only been like 2 years, I guess, since the.
And it's still an active claim.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, got it. Okay, thanks.
Good. So we got a motion?
Yeah.
Got a second?
Yeah.
We do have a second. Any further discussion? Nothing. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion has passed. Brings us up to resolution 2024-025. Approves sweeping bank accounts to transfer capital funds to the operating budget. I had the opportunity to meet with our representative at Hancock Whitney, as well as their financial advisor.
This is when it was active.
Yeah, they were here, and we got into the discussion of all the accounts that we have. And it really was, even to their side, it's like, why? Some was a given, you had to have, but some was just like, why are we doing this? And there was a discussion about keeping so much money in the operating account. Ms. Nguyen was talking about the theft, the embezzlement, these online hackers getting in there. And they said that, even though it's a public account, that we're still vulnerable. And when you have millions of dollars in there, that it's attractive to these people who are trying to get to your money. The other thing she brought out is that you have a very short window of time to notice that fraud took place. I forgot the time, but it was a very short amount of time, hours. It was hours, not days.
Oh, they can do it in a flash.
Yeah, but if we didn't notice it within that time frame, we couldn't recover it. Right? We just have to eat it. And so what we're wanting to do is take a bulk of that money and put it into something like, I'm not saying it will be, but something like a money market that is getting us some interest, or earning some money off of it. Our money is less vulnerable from people getting to it. But it also allows the business manager to pull it over as she needs it. All right, so it gives us the best opportunity to do all of those. So did I do a fair enough job describing
I
it?
mean, this is a standard business practice of sweep accounts so that you're maximizing your interest and you're only leaving funds needed to clear that day's transaction in your operational account. So this is an automatic process. So this resolution, the next one kind of go hand in hand to allow us to develop an improved financial strategy for the department.
And what percentage is that, rate of return?
I think it's anywhere from 3.9 to 5, depending on it floats on 75 basis points on a 28-day T-bill.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve resolution 202405, the
Motion to resolution 2024-025.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion of the board? Any further discussion from the admin? Anything from the audience? I hear none. So, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving 2024-025, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries. Next up is resolution 2024-026. Approve the implementation of financial service investment ladder strategy.
Question about that? Or do we need a motion?
So let's go ahead and do it as we should. And so what we would like to do is have a motion to approve the resolution for financial services investment ladder strategies, and then we can open it up for any discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-026 as related to approving financial ladder strategy.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, so now we've got the motion, we do have the second, so we can open that up for discussion of the board.
Okay. Within that, is it approved implementation of financial services and investment ladder? Okay. In my experience, every time they say financial services, boom, here comes a fee.
Actually, no, this is, if you permit me to speak.
Go right ahead.
Everybody's,
This is a strategy design that most fire departments have engaged, that you use a secure investment like a T-bill or a CD,
Okay.
that you maximize the interest growth off of your money, and by laddering, that money matures at a point in time when you need it for
oh,
operations.
it's like in
So
3
this-
months and 4 months and
Yes,
5
sir.
months.
Yes, sir. So this really allows you to take the public dollars, maximize the return on it, but time it so that your operational funds are always
One's coming mature.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, to your point on funds, the discussion with Whitney, our funds are now locked. So we're not going to get, when we go into the contract, they're locked, they're not going to be any additional funds, or I'm sorry, any additional fees
Correct.
associated with anything else that we do.
Okay.
That's part of the contract.
Okay.
And Whitney Hancock has traditionally waived the fees of their financial services on a monthly basis. And their only penalty on this strategy, which everybody incurs, is if you were to cash in a investment early.
Sure.
But you would do that.
Then we-
Correct.
Yeah.
And the penalty would be just the loss of the interest from the point you cashed it
Okay,
in.
I just have to watch it, but every now and then.
And so to add to that, not only did we have the opportunity to discuss these strategies with Whitney, we did take it upon ourselves to go meet with another financial institution. I'll tell you who it was Edward Jones.
Mhm.
You know, it was just a quiz to see what we could do. And after working the process with Edward Jones, it's nothing that they can do. They could sell us CDs, but they couldn't be third-party CDs because we're a public entity. The law doesn't allow us to buy second-party or third-party CDs. And they just didn't have the bandwidth to take care of the needs that the fire department had. So we did our due diligence, we went to see what else was out there and compared it to what Whitney was offering. Given the fact that they've capped the fees, given the fact that they're willing to do all these financial investment strategies with it, we felt really good about staying with them. So I'll just offer that to,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
any further discussion on that, on this resolution? Anything from the admin? Anything from the audience? All right, so we've got a motion to approve the resolution. We do have a second. So all in favor of adopting resolution 2024-026, referencing investment ladder strategy, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries. Which really, this one ties into it as well. It's resolution 024-027, approve ratification of signature authority for the financial services. Really, this allows, this would put Gilead on,
Remove former chief.
remove the former chief, but it also, we need it read into the minutes that we have additional signatures for the investment. What we had was a bit complicated. I'm trying to recall the conversation, but it sums up this, is that Pat really had the only sole signature for the financial things. And he was doing the moving of the funds, right? He didn't do anything wrong. He did some pretty decent work, in fact. You know, he made the department some money. But what we didn't have when Pat left, we didn't know where some of the CDs went. We had to have a discussion.
Right.
We said, well, we got,
Exactly.
yeah, we had two $100,000 CDs, and next thing we knew, we didn't have those. We only had one.
And then we had T-bills.
Yeah, they went to T-bills, and he made money. But what we want to do, what I'm thinking is the right thing to do, is get the board into that as well. We really don't want just the chief making those decisions.
And I will say that the chief did, for the past year or so, we discussed the CDs, the investments, the interest rates. We discussed it, but I never saw anything.
Well, you like me didn't know that we cashed out a CD.
I did not know that.
So that becomes a problem.
Right.
So what we want to do is get the board's signature on this as well.
Yeah, at least two.
So we're gonna, I don't know how your resolution, if it includes that, but all they simply need is it read into the minutes.
Correct. Basically, we would amend this resolution to also include board members.
Yes, now, I don't know if you want all the board members or
I would say a minimum of two, just to make it easy to get through.
use the two that currently sign
Yes.
some checks.
Yeah, Nancy and I are usually available. And then, so we have, like, on our checks, we have, the chief or the assistant chief plus a board member, which at this point has been me and Danny.
Correct.
Okay, so
And that's a good check.
You don't really need to amend it for board signature unless you want to add additional board members. Because
we're
you're
not gonna add, unless the board feels otherwise.
Okay.
If the board ever feel otherwise, then no.
Yeah, so this resolution basically ratifies the letter of August 23rd, 24, with the retirement of Chief Seacard to remove him, so he has no authority to deal with any financials with the department, and add Chief Gilead as he stepped into the provisional position of Assistant Fire Chief.
But if I recall right, the financial, woman that was representing the financial side said that she needed read into the minutes that the chair and the secretary will also be signing on the financial side.
Correct, you would.
So,
It would be secretary, the chair and the secretary.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the treasurer, I'm sorry, I missed.
They have my signature, but not for
Well, it's
that
not-
stuff.
Yeah.
You're expanding, you would expand your current signature.
Correct, that's exactly right. All right, so we don't have to amend it, we're just gonna go through it. All right, perfect, that makes life
Oh,
better.
you got that, sir.
So we had a motion, or did we? We had a motion to ratify it, we did?
No.
No, we didn't.
No, all right, so we need a motion to approve resolution 2024-027, ratification of signatures.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, we have a second to that. Any further discussion by the board? Do we have any further discussion by the administration? Any discussion by the public? Keith says he's gonna shake off his shoulders back there. So let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving the resolution, say aye. Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion passes. Which brings up resolution 2024-028. Resolution to approve surplus equipment deemed selling, I guess should be read, approve the selling of surplus equipment deemed of no value. And folks, the department has, and Mike's got pictures, he's got a world of pictures he could show us.
28 and 29 are the same?
No, they're different. Those are two different resolutions, and I'll explain the difference. Okay, so,
Like a motion?
let's have a motion to approve it.
Make a
All
motion.
right, we have a second.
Okay,
We have a second. So Michael, through the discussion, this is, folks, this is what we're talking about, of things that have no value. It's an accumulation of years of stuff.
It's actually a combination of both things that have value and no value. They're just all mixed in these pictures.
All right, so things of no value, show me some examples. I see an air condition and pieces and parts. I see pipe.
Yeah, I would assume these couple of these ACs do not have any value. I would assume that this pipe's probably have no value. But this device probably has no value. This outdated copy machine probably has no value. This compressor is broken, zero value. So,
like technology.
Yeah. So I would assume that a lot of that stuff has no value. Of course, people can find value in the structures. This generator was working when we took out of service. We just need to upgrade, transfer, and such. So, sofas, I'm sure probably have no value. So we can throw that away. These copy machines are probably back when your wife worked here.
They were here when I started.
Yeah, so, probably of no value.
All right, thank you, Michael. So really, we've got we have a certain process that we have to follow to get rid of anything. And so basically all we're saying with this resolution, it's going to allow the chief to go through his inventory of stuff, and he can deem things of no value, and then he will follow a prescribed process established by the Louisiana legislative auditor to dispose of this equipment that's been deemed of no value. And it will be his choice. There's different ways he can do it, but I'm not going to get into all those. I'm going to let him get rid of the stuff.
So donate or discard, no value.
Yeah.
And then try to sell of something.
Leave it up to this chief right here to figure out if he can get a nickel for it. I appreciate him getting the nickel. If it's going to cost us money to get the nickel, find something else to do with it.
Yeah. The dumpster may cost us money.
All right, but
Well spent.
well spent, but before it hits the dumpster, make sure that you follow the Louisiana legislative order process. So we have a motion, we have a second on it. Any further discussion of the board? Any discussion by the administration? Anything from the audience? He's got to come up, it says not shaking no more.
This would move from a housekeeping resolution to a house cleaning
Cleaning
resolution.
So all in favor of disposing of surplus equipment being no value, say aye. Any opposed? I hear none, so that resolution passed. Now, here's a little bit of a different twist, Ms. Janey, and this is why they're different. So there are equipment that, and Michael's got it called up there on the screen now, one of them, that they do have, that the mass casualty trailer If the problem with Michael, and Chief Gilliard, it was a wonderful idea to stockpile this thing in case we had, 3 or 4 or 5, 6 Greyhound buses collide and we've got, upwards of 80 people scattered on the interstate. Never did come to play. Then it got to the point, through the size of the department, if you have a situation that grand out on the interstate or anywhere, you gonna say, okay, you get the lead, you're not treating nobody, and once you go back to the station, get the special hitch, put it on the truck, and then drag this thing out there. It's really not practical. Then we got into the discussion of, now we're to the point of we're taking money out of our operating money to replace expiring equipment. So I'm kind of leaving it up to the chief to see if it's stuff that he wanted, if this is something that he feels strongly that the fire department needs to have, I want to yield to him and he can keep it. If it's something that we want to sell that has value, we want to get as much value out of it as we can. That's a fine piece of equipment, actually.
Yeah, and when we got that trailer, we were receiving funding from the state to purchase the items in it. We no longer have that funding, that grant's not in place. And so the items just sitting there, they sit in the heat. There's a lot of items in there of value. There's oxygen tanks, there's equipment that does have value. We can recycle into our operations, but the trailer itself, trying to keep the inventory in it up to date, it's really, I don't think it's worth the effort. I don't think it's worth trying to focus on keeping up with it. So definitely that would be one of the items on our list as far as a surplus.
Don't we have another one that's considerably older?
Yeah, we do. We have a smaller one that's older at 32 that we would like to as well surplus and hopefully sell in the future.
And you will, with these items as well, you will follow the
Absolutely.
LLA process for
Yes,
it.
sir.
On this particular one, I would suggest that you go to somebody who really knows it, maybe that RV place, and let them do an appraisal on it to see what it is worth. I mean, it's got a central unit on the top that does work.
It's got a central unit on top. It's got a window unit on the sides. It's got lighting inside, so it does have some additions to what it was when we first purchased it. But we would certainly get a fair value on it when we get it
I
tested.
mean, they sell it as is with the equipment in it to a department that's looking for something like that.
Could be.
That has, because that takes resources, manpower to get something like that really be functional,
Right, yeah.
So.
Question? Inside, it's just to have the equipment that you can deliver to a site, or you sit there, you can drink your coffee, you can watch the monitors. Is it more like a station, or just deliver the stuff to the site where it's needed to take care of?
It's a U-Haul.
It's a U-Haul.
Yeah, I had a picture and I failed to include it of the inside, but it has items on small dollies or small.
It's not, it's not a command post. You're not gonna treat anybody in that thing.
Right, okay.
When you get on scene, it's gonna be such a bundle of mess in there because it's no way to secure it. It's just gonna be very interesting when you open the door. It will self-unload, I would imagine.
That's a possibility, and again, a lot of that stuff may already be expired, so we'd have to.
Yeah, so, the resolution, so we have a motion on it? No. Okay, so we have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion from the board? Any further discussion from admin? Keith, anybody? No discussion, I got one thumbs up from Keith. All right, so all in favor of allowing chief to surplus equipment deemed of value, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, so that motion carried. Okay. Extension of financial services. Okay, so this is the actual resolution that allows us to renew the contract with Whitney. So it's resolution 2024-030, approve the extension of the Hancock Whitney Financial Services. As I talked earlier, we did talk to Hancock. They're giving us, they're capping out the fees. They're doing some good things for us. They're offering some good services. We did compare, we did try to do a little shopping out there. And it is, the folks that met with both Whitney and with Edward Jones feels like it's the best thing for us to stay with them. So, motion to approve resolution 2024-30, approving the extension of the Hancock Whitney Financial Services
I make a
contract.
motion that
We
we
have,
approve.
okay, do we have a second? We do have a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Yes, comment.
Go ahead.
I would like to see that contract. I've been hearing about these contracts for years and I've never seen one with
Could
it.
you still, could you send it to her?
Well, just if I come in and look at it Friday morning.
Okay.
That's all I really need. Okay.
It's very short.
Good.
And I don't think there's any need for legal to do any review of it. It's simply an extension of the.
No, just for my edification of exactly what we're agreeing to.
Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? I hear none, so the extension of the contract with Whitney has been approved. All right, so this is one, resolution 2024-031 really is a resolution which is rescinding a resolution numbered 2019-016. And we discussed this at the last meeting. It was, as you may recall, that resolution allowed us to charge for emergency response. And it could be out on the interstate, it could be in education, on fish hatchery, it could be for structured fire. We understood the reason why the original resolution was in is that financially things had changed and it was a way to generate revenue for the department. Lucky for us, things have changed for our behalf, and believe it was the desire of the board for us to stop that process, that process of being able to charge. I think we may have made less than $5,000 the whole time.
Since 2019.
Yeah, it's very little.
And actually, the reason for this rescission is it was originally presented to the board to use Fire Recovery USA. Chief Seacard actually elected to use Insight Billing
So
for it.
we deviated from the resolution
So
anyway.
and since you terminated the services with Insight Billing, by default, you terminated this. So this is just a cleanup.
Okay.
But I do want to add to that, I would like for the department, I'd like to put on record that the department reserves the right to bill for services that are outside of the norm. As an example, if we have a situation on the interstate, could be anything, but I'm going to pick on Walmart. Walmart has a truck, they flip it, they've got, the Walmart truck is from a hazmat world, is a disaster. You don't know what you do, but we've got the interstate blocked and we have to keep a truck and maybe a staff of people out on the interstate for 6 hours. It's taking that unit out of service for 6 hours. I think we should reserve the right in those situations to charge for that at the chief's discretion, but not to have this smorgasbord of prices. That, if you recall, that resolution had, oh my Lord, it was 20 different things. I just simply say at his discretion, at the chief's discretion, he charged the established FEMA rates for a pumper and for a crew. There's a rate for that.
Charge Walmart or their,
Whoever,
yeah.
who's gonna get the bill, whoever it may be.
And the law allows us to cherry pick, so to speak. In other words, we can do this for one, but do we have to do it for every one, or does it?
Make it standard.
I can't answer that. That's a Chad question, and I don't get a
Well,
response.
that goes back to the whole recovery thing about forgiving debt and you know.
It does, but what I'm saying is it reserves the right. So if there's a situation that the chief thinks that we may want to consider that, then that would be a situation that he would interact with Chad.
Okay.
He said, Chad, based upon the situation that we're dealing with out here, does this meet the criteria? And are we violating, are we being biased or non-biased? And we would default back to legal. It's a really bad image for us to have a shopping list that we can run our finger down to go to Miss Kuzan and say, well, Miss Kuzan, you came here, you had a grease fire in your stove, so you owe us $10,000 or whatever it would have been. It's ridiculous. So we do away with that practice. And we believe that if it really is drawing from our resources over long periods of time, just like our hurricane would do, I would say, let the chief, if they're constructed, make that work. Yes.
So were we actually billing the residents or we were billing the insurance companies?
Insurance carriers.
Okay.
However, the perception is reality. So I would certainly, if I got a bill, if the insurance company paid a bill, I get an itemized list of what that insurance pays out to do for my house. And if I've seen that there was a charge responding to a structure fire, I would be screaming from the hilltops that I had to pay for it. That's a really sad perception. We don't need to be doing that.
The way it was said, I was like, oh, so Ms. Kuzan got a bill, and I thought.
I can't tell you who.
It would be, the way it was originally designed would be billing the insurance carrier that provided coverage for that automobile, dwelling, whatever it may be. Never to the individual itself.
But we did collect $6,000, or in the neighborhood of $6,000 over a period of time.
In that neighborhood, correct?
And so somebody,
It's not a whole, the insurance company's got the bill, but it's not a whole lot of money. And I understand why it was done, and so now financially it's different, so we don't need it, so that's fine.
so the motion is to rescind the resolution 2019-016 for District 3.
Motion.
Yeah.
Rescind.
Second.
What it did. Okay, see it.
I'll say it.
031.
Fair enough. Do we have a second on that?
Yes.
We do have a second on that. Any further discussion of the board? Any discussion from the admin? Any discussion from the audience? Keith's got to be, that's still at one thumbs up. So all in favor of rescind resolution, say aye. All in favor, all opposed, say no. I hear none. So the motion carries, but I do want it read again into the record that the department will reserve the right to bill on the chief's discretion. Get close, folks.
Give it improvements.
That's going to come. All right, so it brings us to item 16, last on the agenda, is retirement benefits and qualifying events, and it's got Act 339 and Louisiana Revised Statute 2236 has been referenced, and this was asked to be placed on the agenda by PMI, which does our benefits, our human resources. And so I'm going to let Mr.
I believe it was in 2022, the legislature passed a bill that said if you are a fire district or department that is 50 employees or less, that you're now legally required to offer retirees the ability to stay on your benefit plan to age 65, although they will pay the burden of the premium. And that would include like dental and things of that nature. Well, we had passed a resolution in 2022, I believe, by the board to establish that plan. With Chief Seacard as your first retiree that would qualify for retiree benefits since this bill's been enacted, your current agent struggled mightily to get that in place. And actually, I had to intercede, and to the point where I basically made a mandate that this board passed a resolution that was advertised to the public, that was unanimously voted, that complied with statutory law. So if your carrier wishes to not comply with statutory law, please have them place that in writing. Well, basically with that demand, they said, oh, we're going to recognize your resolution that establishes the criteria and let the chief retire. My concern is that we had an unexpected retirement of Chief Seacard. And we had a very finite window to put all this in place to make sure he had no gap in coverage for September. Because he's retired August 31st. So it was, the agent had never done this before. And the agent did act on your behalf, but didn't have the knowledge of not only this act, but what it took to mandate that primary care in the state of Louisiana would recognize. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention that you are in compliance with the law. We have now forced your insurance provider to be compliant to the law. And we have established that Chief Seacard can purchase benefits to age 65 under this law at no cost to the district. My concern is that when we got into such a tight window of making this happen, that the agency didn't have the bandwidth to do it on their own.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring that just to the board's attention.
So, Keith, did you struggle getting it?
I was trying to understand that, but I think I was past the age of 65.
Correct.
That's probably why I couldn't get into it.
That is correct.
So you didn't experience this then?
No,
Okay.
I mean, it's a mandatory.
because I was over the age, and as per Chief Seacard was
Yeah,
not.
so-
Yeah, 65 is required to go to Medicare.
Is that
You went straight into Medicare.
right?
So the point the problem that I've got, I had this conversation with Mark about the insurance company several weeks ago. And the thing that I find problematic is that we've got an individual, he's a broker, he's I guess is agent, I guess is the right word. He's an agent for the insurance company, but it doesn't seem like he is an agent with the experience to manage our account. It seems like he's more of a homeowners type of guy.
Well, he does provide services to fire departments,
So
but
how did he miss this then,
good question.
if that's the case?
And I'm not recommending that PMI provide insurance services for employment. I'm not making that recommendation at any level. But I do have relationships with brokers around the state that specialize in fire departments and specialize in the expediting of certain services like this, that if it's the board's wish to look at that, that's just your wish. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we could have potentially had a gap that would have affected a statutory law in the state of Louisiana because the agent did not force the carrier to comply with state law.
And that sounds like a lack of experience.
In a
He had never
specific,
experienced
in a
it.
specific area, yes, ma'am.
Not that he was faulted, it's just that he.
And look, I think he's provided
That she carries.
I think we should feel good that whoever we're doing business with can manage our account. And in this particular example, he did. He was fumbling the ball until he was forced to do something otherwise. I would not, I think you folks you like the insurance that you have. So so I wouldn't want to change insurance companies,
No.
but I would certainly like to think about, at least think about, yeah, getting some assurances that this individual can take care of those guys. And if we don't feel comfortable with that, then we probably should.
Well, we could probably be shopping it every now and then anyway.
I
I think I know the agent you're talking about.
I would say shop, I don't know about shopping companies, if we're getting a good product and they like their insurance and it's affordable, I wouldn't want to go, changing all that. I just want somebody at that company to be able to represent us. If we've got the extraordinary thing that pops up because we're public service, or that individual will be able to handle it without fumbling the ball.
Or being pushed into doing it.
That's right.
I mean, I think if you mention it, then I'm gonna be on top of it. I'm gonna look, research it and say, yeah, we gotta do that. Not be pushed into doing it.
Correct.
Because to me, that just shows just a lack of professionalism on his part, not to say, oh, let me check into that and get that, but he had to be forced. Well,
And let me just state for the record, the board did all the appropriate action, I think, back in 22 when the law was enacted, to establish the policies and protocol to do it. And and if I need to verify the actual resolution, I will, but it was done by board resolution.
so I mean, we could
But that's
look at that later on, I mean.
No action required tonight.
Right.
I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention.
Well, I do want to write it up here. I would like to folks to entertain a motion for us to explore alternate agents.
Do we have to do a resolution for that?
Well, we don't need a resolution per se, but a motion to allow us to go out and think about a different one, I think would be most appropriate. So
I'll make a motion that we explore the possibility of alternate or,
We can put it on the agenda for next month's meeting.
Correct.
yeah, so if we did a motion tonight, then we could actually go through the work, interview the different agent, and even interview this guy.
yeah.
And then bring it to the board, and let the board make a final decision.
Yeah.
So the motion, so we got a motion to explore,
Reevaluate our agent.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
You got a second? All right. Any further discussion on the board? From the admin?
No, we can make a
I have
comment.
one question. Don't you have to add that to the agenda in order to add that onto it?
Say that again.
Don't you have to add it to the agenda that you have? Because that wasn't actually part of the agenda tonight.
Yes,
It is? It's part of looking into another agency?
Well, it's brought up through the actual act, and the act is the source of why we're.
It was
Okay,
it was an outflow.
As long as I get a clarification, because
It was
it
an
seems like
outflow
it's supposed
of
to be.
that, Keith, so.
Yeah, okay.
Outflow of it.
Retirement benefits, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor? Any opposed? I hear none, so the motion carries.
but let me comment, I can't remember his name, I haven't met him, I have his card, nice man, but maybe have him come in and just talk to us about it too, I mean, re-interview him.
That's in the resolution,
Okay,
to evaluate the current broker and to consider other possible brokers.
got it.
Anybody want to take us home?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have none opposed. Thank you, folks. I think we got through a lot of work in a short period of time.